Kai Morrell gazed out of the ship's window as the planet Talither grew larger in the distance. The vibrant blue and green swirled across the surface, marking the home of strange life forms and hidden wonders. As a young boy, this was the first time he had traveled beyond Earth. His father, Captain Jax Morrell, was the commander of the Starwind, a trade cruiser, and the journey to Talither was part of their routine supply run. Kai had always been fascinated by the stars, but nothing could have prepared him for the adventure that awaited him on this alien world. The Talitharians, the dominant species on the planet, were known for their highly advanced technology, their telepathic abilities, and their calm, philosophical ways. They rarely interacted with other species, preferring isolation over communication. Kai's father had explained that the Talitharians valued their peace and would only trade with those who respected their way of life. Kai didn't understand why anyone wouldn't want to engage with such fascinating creatures, but he was too excited to care. He was finally going to see another world up close. The ship touched down in the Talitharian city, a grand structure of tall, glass-like towers and sprawling green fields. The buildings shimmered with a strange glow, as if made from living material, blending perfectly with the natural surroundings. The air was thick with the scent of alien plants, and the sky above was dotted with strange floating islands. For Kai, it felt like stepping into a dream. As his father and the rest of the crew began unloading supplies, Kai couldn't sit still. He'd been told to stay near the ship, but his curiosity about the jungle beyond the city was overwhelming. After all, Talither was a planet of mystery. He had read stories about it, vast, unexplored jungles filled with creatures never seen before. Kai's mind raced with excitement as he found a small path leading into the wilds of the planet. Ignoring the warnings from the crew, he crept away from the ship, deeper into the jungle. The tall trees towered above him, their trunks twisted and gnarled with age. Strange birds flew overhead, their feathers glowing faintly in the dim light. The air was cool and damp, and the ground beneath his feet was soft and spongy. The sounds of distant animals echoed in the distance, but they didn't frighten Kai. He had always been the adventurous type, always wanting to see things that others couldn't. After walking for what seemed like hours, he stumbled upon a clearing. It was here that he saw a creature that would change his life forever. Lying in the center of the clearing, almost hidden by the thick vegetation, was an enormous creature. It resembled a dragon in many ways. Its long, scaled body was covered in shimmering, silvery blue armor, and its wings, though folded, looked large enough to stretch across the entire clearing. Its head was slender, with sharp, reptilian features, and it had eyes that seemed to glow with an ancient, knowing light. But what caught Kai's attention most was the mark on its neck. The dragon's neck bore a strange, glowing symbol, unlike anything Kai had ever seen before. It was carved deep into the scales, almost like an ancient tattoo. The symbol seemed to pulse with an eerie energy, and when Kai stepped closer, the mark shimmered as if it recognized his presence. At first, the dragon didn't move. It lay still, as if exhausted or injured. But then, slowly, it turned its head toward Kai. Its golden eyes locked onto his, and a strange sensation washed over him. It was like the dragon was speaking to him without words, its presence reaching out to him in a way he couldn't quite understand. The creature was not aggressive, if anything. It seemed to be frightened, its massive body trembling slightly as if it had been waiting for something. Kai stood frozen, unsure of what to do. He had heard of alien creatures before, dragons, beasts, and monstrous beings, but none of them were anything like this. This dragon seemed different. It wasn't like the legends of vicious, fire-breathing creatures that destroyed everything in their path. This one seemed peaceful, almost gentle, but also incredibly lonely. "Are you okay?" Kai whispered, though he knew the dragon couldn't answer him in words. To his surprise, the dragon let out a soft, low rumble. It wasn't a growl, nor a roar, just a sound that seemed to vibrate in the air, as if it were communicating with him in a language older than time itself. Kai's heart pounded as he slowly took another step forward. The dragon didn't retreat, and its eyes followed his every movement. For a moment, it almost seemed like the dragon was inviting him to come closer, to understand it. Without thinking, Kai reached out his hand toward the strange mark on the dragon's neck. The moment his fingers brushed against the symbol, the dragon's body shuddered. A flash of light erupted from the mark, and the air around them seemed to crackle with energy. Kai stumbled back in surprise, his heart racing as the dragon's wings flicked slightly, as if waking from a deep sleep. The symbol on its neck glowed brighter, and for the briefest of moments, Kai felt something deep, hidden knowledge passing between them. Then, just as quickly as it had come, the glow faded, and the dragon's body relaxed once more. It let out a soft sigh, as if it had been waiting for something that Kai didn't understand. The young boy stood there, staring at the creature in awe. He had never felt so connected to anything in his life. It was as though, in that brief moment, he had touched something ancient, something beyond the stars themselves. The dragon's eyes met his again, and for a long while, neither of them moved. But then the sound of voices reached Kai's ears. His father, Captain Jax, was calling his name. The search party had started looking for him. With one last, lingering look at the dragon, Kai turned and began to walk back toward the ship, his mind racing with questions. He couldn't understand what had just happened, but he knew one thing for sure. The dragon was no ordinary creature, and that mark on its neck was far more important than anyone could imagine. As he neared the edge of the clearing, the dragon watched him, its golden eyes following him with an unspoken understanding. Kai paused for a moment, glancing back at the creature. The mark on the dragon's neck flickered again, but this time, Kai didn't feel afraid. He felt chosen. He didn't know what the future held, but one thing was clear. This was just the beginning. Back aboard the Starwind, Kai couldn't stop thinking about what had happened in the jungle. He had seen countless strange things in books and holovids, but nothing compared to the feeling of standing next to that dragon, of touching the glowing mark on its neck. He couldn't explain it, but something deep inside told him that the dragon, Zyra as he had named it, was important, not just to him, but to something much bigger. That evening, Kai sat in his small quarters, staring at the map of Talither displayed on his holoscreen. His father had told him to stay inside the ship while the crew made contact with the Talitharians. They had to exchange supplies and information, but Kai had never been one to follow orders, especially when something so mysterious was calling to him. He couldn't forget the mark on Zyra's neck. The way it glowed and pulsed when he touched it made him feel like he had unlocked something ancient. A part of him wondered if the mark was a key to some kind of treasure, or maybe a secret buried in the history of the galaxy. Kai reached into his bag and pulled out his journal, flipping to the page where he had sketched the symbol. He had been studying the design ever since he had seen it. It didn't look like any alien writing he had come across before. The lines were curved and smooth, almost like a dragon's tail curled into itself, with sharp angles at the ends. There was a deep, mysterious energy that radiated from it. It felt like more than just a marking. It was a message. But a message for who? Maybe it's a clue, Kai whispered to himself. He had heard stories about ancient symbols, mysterious marks that led to powerful artifacts, or lost knowledge. Could this be one of those legends? His thoughts were interrupted by a quiet knock at the door. Kai quickly closed his journal and shoved it under his bed, not wanting anyone to see the strange symbol just yet. It was probably his father, checking up on him. "Come in," Kai said. Trying to sound casual, the door slid open, and there stood his father, Captain Jax Morrell. His broad shoulders filled the doorway, and his serious expression softened when he saw his son. "Hey, kid, everything okay in here?" Jax asked, stepping inside. He crossed his arms, glancing around the small room. "Yeah, just thinking," Kai replied, not meeting his father's eyes. He was nervous. He didn't want to share what he had discovered yet. It felt too big, too important. "You sure?" Jax asked, raising an eyebrow. "You've been kind of quiet since the jungle. Anything happen out there?" Kai's stomach tightened. He couldn't lie to his father, but he didn't know how to explain the connection he had felt with the dragon. "Not yet. I saw something," Kai said slowly, trying to find the right words. "A dragon. It was hurt, I think. It had this weird mark on its neck. When I touched it, the mark started to glow, And the dragon. It didn't hurt me. It just... He stopped himself, not sure how to explain what he had felt. It felt like it was trying to tell me something. Jack studied him carefully, his face unreadable. After a long pause, he sighed and walked over to the small table near Kai's bed. He sat down, his voice gentle but firm. Listen, I know you've got an adventurous side, Kai. I get that. But the Talitharians, they're a peaceful species. We don't mess with their animals or their traditions. We don't know what that mark means, and frankly, it could be dangerous. Kai looked at his father. He knew his dad was just trying to protect him, but this was different. He couldn't shake the feeling that what had happened in the jungle was a sign that he was meant to be a part of something bigger. I don't think it's dangerous. Kai said quietly. The dragon Zyra, I think it's called, didn't hurt me. It seemed, I don't know, like it needed help. Jax rubbed his face with his hand, sighing again. I'm not saying it's dangerous. I'm saying we don't know anything about it yet. You need to stay out of trouble. We're here to trade, not to go chasing after mysterious creatures. Kai nodded but didn't feel reassured. He knew there was more to this story, and he wasn't about to ignore it. The next day, Kai found himself unable to stay away. As soon as his father and the rest of the crew were busy with the Talitharians, Kai sneaked out of the ship and made his way back to the jungle. His heart raced as he entered the thick forest once again. He had to see Zyra. Something told him the dragon was waiting for him. The strange mark on its neck, whatever it meant, held the answers to questions. He didn't even know he had yet. Kai pushed through the thick underbrush, his eyes scanning the trees. He couldn't remember exactly where he had seen Zyra before, but his feet seemed to know the way. After a few minutes of walking, he came upon the same clearing. There, lying in the center, was Zyra. This time, the dragon was sitting upright, its large golden eyes watching Kai as he approached. Kai paused for a moment, taking in the sight of the creature. It was even more magnificent up close. Its scales shimmered like starlight, and its wings, though folded, looked powerful enough to lift it into the sky. The glowing mark on its neck pulsed softly, as if it recognized Kai's presence. Hey, Kai said softly, stepping forward. It's me again. Zyra didn't move at first, but then it lowered its head toward Kai, its long snout coming to rest on the ground. The golden eyes locked onto him once more, and Kai felt the familiar connection. He stepped closer, reaching out a hand toward the mark on Zyra's neck. The moment his fingers touched the mark again, the glow intensified. This time, Kai felt a surge of energy flow through him, a strange, powerful sensation that made his hair stand on end. The dragon's body shuddered as if reacting to the touch. Suddenly, a voice, not in words, but in feelings, flooded his mind. You are the one. Kai pulled his hand back in surprise. His heart raced, and he took a step back, staring at the dragon in disbelief. The voice had come from Zyra, but it hadn't been spoken aloud. It had been inside his head, clear and unmistakable. I'm the one, Kai whispered, unsure of what that meant. The dragon's golden eyes flickered, and the mark on its neck glowed brighter still. This time, Kai saw something more, a pattern, a code, hidden in the light. The symbol on the mark shifted and rearranged in his mind, like a puzzle being solved. He saw images, flashes of a distant past, of ancient beings, of wars fought long ago. And then, he saw the Phoenix Gate, an ancient relic, hidden away, waiting to be opened. Before Kai could make sense of it all, the voice returned. The key is within you. The path is open. The gate awaits. With a sharp breath, Kai stumbled back. His mind was spinning. The Phoenix Gate? What was it? And why had the dragon chosen him? Before he could process anything more, a low rumble echoed through the jungle. A shadow loomed over them. Kai turned, his heart racing. The Talitharian ships, and worse, other ships that didn't belong. The Malkor. The hunt had begun. Kai's heart pounded as the shadows of the ships loomed larger. The Malkor had arrived. He could see their warships descending from the sky, massive, dark vessels that moved with terrifying precision. Their sleek, black designs were nothing like the peaceful, shimmering Talitharian ships that floated above the city. No, the Malkor ships were built for one thing, conquest. The dragon, Zyra, raised its head. Sensing the danger, the golden eyes flashed, and the wings twitched nervously, as if Zyra knew what was coming. Kai could feel the tension in the air, like the entire jungle was holding its breath. "What do we do now?" Kai whispered to the dragon, his voice barely audible. He was sure the creature couldn't answer him, but the connection they shared seemed to give him some kind of understanding. Zyra's eyes never left him, as if waiting for Kai to make the next move. Then, as if sensing that the Malkor were closing in, the ground beneath Kai's feet trembled. He glanced up and saw the Talitharian city in the distance. There was no time to get back to the ship, not with the Malkor so close. The enemy would be there long before Kai could warn anyone. Kai took a deep breath, trying to calm his racing thoughts. He remembered what Zyra had said to him earlier. In the strange voice in his head, "The key is within you. The path is open. The gate awaits. The Phoenix Gate." Kai had no idea what it was, but the urgency in the message was clear. The Malkor were after it. He had to figure out what the gate was and why they wanted it so badly. But how, and why him? He was just a boy. What could he possibly do against the Malkor? A low growl from Zyra broke him out of his thoughts. The dragon's wings stretched slightly, and for the first time, Kai noticed the muscles in its powerful body. Zyra wasn't just a timid, shying creature. There was power in those wings. There was strength beneath those shimmering scales. If the dragon wanted to fight, it would be ready. Kai glanced around quickly. He didn't have much time. There was a narrow path leading deeper into the jungle, hidden from view by the thick trees and vines. The Malkor ships were still descending, but they weren't close enough yet. He had just enough time to get away. "We need to go," Kai said, his voice steady with resolve. He turned to run toward the path, but Zyra didn't follow immediately. The dragon stood still, its golden eyes still locked on Kai. For a moment, Kai thought the creature might refuse, but then Zyra's wings flared open, revealing their massive span. The dragon took off into the sky with a powerful leap, its wings beating the air with incredible force. Kai's breath caught in his throat as he watched Zyra soar above the trees, its silhouette dark against the dimming sky. The dragon's wings caught the wind with ease, and in just a few moments, it was high above the jungle, gliding toward the distant mountains. Kai quickly followed the dragon's flight path, running faster to keep up with the creature's speed. He was heading straight for the mountains, a place he had heard about in stories, an ancient, forgotten place, deep in the jungle, where strange ruins lay hidden. The Talitharians never spoke much about it, but Kai had always been curious. It was said to be the site of some long-lost civilization, perhaps even the key to understanding the Phoenix Gate. Could this be the place Zyra had been trying to lead him to? Kai's feet pounded against the jungle floor, and his mind raced. He was running out of time. The Malkor wouldn't be far behind. He couldn't let them get to Zyra. Whatever the gate was, it had to be protected. As Kai neared the foot of the mountains, he heard a sudden crack in the trees behind him. He turned around, his heart jumping into his throat. A Malkor scout, on foot, had emerged from the thick brush. The soldier's armor was dark and angular, a sharp contrast to the natural beauty of the jungle. The Malkor soldier didn't see Kai yet, but he was moving toward the area where the dragon had last been. Kai ducked behind a large rock, holding his breath as the soldier walked past, unaware of his presence. The Malkor soldier's eyes scanned the jungle, his hand resting on the weapon slung across his back. Kai's eyes narrowed. He had to be careful. If they found Zyra, the dragon would be in grave danger. As the soldier moved farther into the jungle, Kai slowly rose from his hiding spot, trying not to make a sound. His eyes searched for Zyra, but the dragon was nowhere in sight. The mountains loomed ahead, dark and ominous. The Malkor scout was getting closer to the mountain pass, but there was no sign of anyone else. Kai needed to act fast. Suddenly, a loud roar echoed through the jungle land, unmistakable. Powerful sound that sent a chill down Kai's spine. The ground trembled again as Zyra's massive body landed in front of the Malkor soldier. The dragon's wings spread wide, blocking the path completely. The Malkor soldier froze, his eyes wide in shock. He raised his weapon, but Zyra's golden eyes locked onto him with such intensity that he hesitated. Kai held his breath as he watched the scene unfold. He could see the soldier's hand shaking as he pointed the weapon at Zyra. But he didn't pull the trigger. The dragon was too powerful, too magnificent. For a moment, it was as if the soldier could not bring himself to harm such a creature. Without warning, Zyra let out another roar, a terrifying sound that seemed to shake the very trees around them. The soldier stumbled back, dropping his weapon in fear. Kai could see the terror in the soldier's eyes as he turned and ran, disappearing into the jungle. Zyra's wings slowly folded back against its body, and the dragon turned to face Kai. The connection between them was clear, stronger than ever. Zyra was not just a creature of ancient power. It was a guardian, one that would protect its chosen, even if it meant facing down an entire army. Kai stood there, breathing heavily, staring up at the dragon. He didn't know what to say, but Zyra didn't need words. It understood him. It understood that he was part of something bigger. The Malkor were not the only ones who wanted the Phoenix Gate, and as long as the mark on Zyra's neck stayed hidden, they would keep coming. Kai realized that the danger wasn't just for Zyra anymore. It was for him, too, but he couldn't back down. Not now. He took a step forward, looking up at the dragon. We need to keep moving. We can't let them find us. Zyra's golden eyes glowed once more as it nodded, and Kai knew the adventure was only just beginning. The jungle grew denser as Kai and Zyra moved further into the mountains. The air became thick with moisture, and the sounds of distant animals faded, replaced by the eerie silence of the ancient ruins ahead. The sun was setting, casting an orange glow over the jagged peaks. Kai's heart beat faster with each step as they drew closer to the hidden place. Zyra seemed to be leading him too. Kai glanced over his shoulder. The Malkor were relentless. Even though they had managed to escape the soldier, he knew it was only a matter of time before they tracked them down again. The Malkor had technology and soldiers, but Zyra had something much more powerful, the ancient knowledge of the Phoenix Gate. Whatever it was hidden here, in these mountains. Zyra's wings flared out slightly, brushing the treetops as it glided quietly above Kai. The dragon's golden eyes were always alert, scanning their surroundings, listening for any sounds of pursuit. The creature seemed almost peaceful in this moment, but Kai knew better. The mark on its neck, which still glowed faintly, held the secret to everything. It was the key, and Kai was starting to understand that the gate wasn't just a relic, it was an opportunity for change, for something far more important than he could imagine. The jungle was now behind them, and before them stood a crumbling stone structure, an ancient temple-like ruin, partially hidden by vines and overgrown trees. It looked abandoned, forgotten by time. There were no signs of life here, no Talitharians, no other creatures. It was just them and the ruins, as if the entire world had been swallowed by the mountain itself. Kai's eyes widened as they approached. The entrance to the ruin was large, carved into the mountain with intricate symbols, similar to the one on Zyra's neck. It was like the ruins were waiting for them. He could feel it now, the connection. The key was here, buried beneath centuries of dust and stone. This is it, isn't it? Kai muttered to himself, his voice barely audible. Zyra landed gracefully next to him, its wings folding tightly against its body as it lowered its head. It was clear the dragon was just as ready for whatever was coming next. Kai approached the entrance of the ruin cautiously, his pulse racing. The walls were covered in strange alien writing, the symbols curling and twisting in patterns that almost seemed to move. Some of the symbols were similar to the mark on Zyra's neck, while others were entirely different new patterns that Kai couldn't understand. But the more he stared at them, the more a strange feeling washed over him. He wasn't just looking at the writing. He was feeling it, too. The connection between him and Zyra was growing stronger, and it was like the symbols were speaking directly to him. His hand trembled as he reached out, touching the closest symbol. A flash of light filled his vision, and his mind was flooded with images, strange, impossible images. He saw a galaxy in the distant past, full of bright stars and powerful civilizations. He saw a battle, fierce and unstoppable, fought between ancient species. And then a massive structure, an enormous gate, floating in the black void of space. The Phoenix Gate. The image flickered, and suddenly, Kai was no longer standing in front of the ruin. Instead, he was floating in space, staring at the gate. It was a massive structure, made of light and energy, its surface covered in glowing symbols. The gate was a weapon, and Kai could feel its power, its destructive potential. But it was also something else. It wasn't just a tool of war. It was a symbol of creation, too. Wait, Kai gasped, pulling his hand back from the symbol. His breath came in shallow gasps as the vision faded, and he found himself back in front of the ruin. His heart was racing. He had just seen the Phoenix Gate. But how and why had he seen it? Zyra let out a soft growl, its head low as it nudged Kai gently. The dragon's eyes were focused on the entrance to the ruin, waiting for him to make the next move. Kai shook his head, still trying to process what had just happened. He had to focus. There was no time to lose. The Malkor would be here soon, and they would want this gate for themselves. Okay, Kai said, his voice steadying. Let's go inside. He stepped into the ruin, his footsteps echoing in the vast, empty hall. The walls were covered in ancient carvings, depicting scenes of long-forgotten history. Some of the images showed peaceful beings, living in harmony with each other, while others showed the destruction caused by wars and conflicts. But there was one thing that stood out in all the pictures: an image of a dragon, much like Zyra. Standing before the Phoenix Gate, Kai's heart skipped a beat. The dragon was part of the legend. Zyra was part of this ancient story. He wasn't just here to unlock the gate. He was here because he was meant to be. The deeper they went into the ruins, the darker it became. The air grew colder, and a strange humming noise filled the space around them. Kai could feel the energy in the air, an invisible force pulling him towards something. The ruins were alive, vibrating with the power of the gate. It was as if the entire structure was waiting for him to unlock its secrets. At the center of the ruin, there was a large stone pedestal. On it sat a glowing crystal, its surface flickering with light. It was unlike anything Kai had ever seen before, and the moment his eyes landed on it, he knew it was the key to unlocking the Phoenix Gate. Kai hesitated. He had no idea what would happen if he touched it. Would it unlock the gate? Would it destroy everything? As he stepped closer, Zyra let out a low rumble, a warning. The dragon's golden eyes were fixed on the crystal, and its wings fluttered slightly, as if the creature could sense the immense power contained within the stone. Kai knelt beside the pedestal, his fingers hovering over the crystal. His heart raced in his chest, and the air around him seemed to grow heavier. He could feel the gate's power pulling him in, urging him to act before he could make up his mind. The sound of footsteps echoed through the ruins. Kai's head snapped up, his breath catching in his throat. The Malkor had arrived through the shadows of the entrance. A group of Malkor soldiers stepped into the ruin, their weapons drawn. Their leader, a tall figure in dark armor, stepped forward, his eyes locked onto Kai. "I knew you would be here," the Malkor leader said, his voice cold and menacing. "The boy who can unlock the gate. You have no idea what you're dealing with." Kai stood up, his heart hammering in his chest. The Malkor were here to take the gate, and they were not going to stop until they had it. But Kai wasn't going to let them. Not now, Zyra roared, its massive form blocking Kai from the soldiers. The dragon's wings flared, and its eyes glowed with fierce determination. It was ready to protect Kai no matter the cost. The Malkor leader stepped back, his hand on the hilt of his weapon. "You think you can stop us, dragon? You are nothing." Kai's voice was steady, filled with the strength he had found within himself. "I won't let you take it." The Malkor soldiers began to advance, but Zyra stood its ground. The battle for the Phoenix Gate had begun. The tension in the ruin was thick, the silence broken only by the low growl of Zyra. Kai stood beside the dragon, heart pounding, as the Malkor soldiers advanced. Their leader, a tall, armored figure, stepped forward, his weapon raised. The air around them felt charged, like the very walls of the ruin were holding their breath. "You think you can stop us, boy?" The Malkor leader sneered, his voice dripping with disdain. "You're nothing but a child. You have no idea what you're standing in front of." Kai clenched his fists. The weight of the moment hung heavy on his shoulders. The Phoenix Gate was here, in this ruin, and the Malkor wanted to claim it for themselves. But Kai knew he couldn't let that happen. This wasn't just about the gate, it was about the future of the galaxy. The power contained in that gate could change everything, and the Malkor would only use it for destruction. I may be a kid, Kai said, his voice steady despite the fear pounding in his chest. But I'm not afraid to fight for what's right. The Malkor leader's cold eyes narrowed, and he motioned for his soldiers to advance. The dark figures in armor moved forward, weapons drawn. But Zyra was ready. With a deafening roar, the dragon leaped forward, its massive wings beating the air. The soldiers scattered as the dragon's tail whipped through the air like a whip, knocking one of them aside. Zyra was fast, its movements sharp and powerful, as if it were built for this fight. Kai took a step back, staying close to the pedestal where the glowing crystal sat. His hand brushed against the stone, and for a moment, the vision he had seen earlier flashed in his mind: the Phoenix Gate, its power, its purpose. He had to make a choice. The gate was a powerful weapon, but it was also more than that. It was a source of creation, of hope. If used right, it could rebuild what had been lost. But in the wrong hands, it could bring about destruction beyond imagination. He looked at Zyra, who was holding off the Malkor soldiers with powerful roars and fierce attacks. The dragon was fighting with everything it had, but the Malkor were relentless. Their leader stepped forward, his eyes locked on Kai and the crystal. "The gate belongs to us," the Malkor leader said, his voice low and threatening. "Give me the key, boy." "It's over." Kai's pulse raced as he glanced at the pedestal. The crystal flickered with energy, the mark on Zyra's neck pulsing in time with the glow. In that moment, Kai understood. The key wasn't just the crystal, it was the bond between him and the dragon. It was their trust, their shared purpose. Without that connection, the gate could never be opened. The power of the gate depended on them working together. "No," Kai said firmly, stepping forward. "It's not yours. It was never meant for destruction." The Malkor leader's eyes flared with anger. He raised his weapon, ready to strike, but before he could make a move, Zyra charged. The dragon's wings beat fiercely as it swooped down, blocking the leader's path. The ground shook beneath them as the Malkor soldiers tried to regroup. But they were no match for the dragon's strength. Zyra's tail swung with a crash, sending soldiers flying back. Kai felt a surge of energy within him as he looked at the crystal again. He reached out and grasped it. The moment his fingers made contact, the ruin seemed to come alive. The walls trembled, the air thick with power. The crystal pulsed with a blinding light, and the ground beneath them shook violently. A low, rumbling sound filled the space, like the very core of the galaxy was being awakened. The Phoenix Gate, hidden within the ruin, was responding. The ancient mechanism that had been dormant for centuries was now coming to life. Kai felt a connection, stronger than before, to the crystal and to Zyra. He knew what he had to do. "Zyra, we have to unlock it together," Kai shouted, his voice almost drowned out by the noise of the rising energy. "Trust me." Zyra's golden eyes met his, and for a split second, the bond between them was undeniable. The dragon nodded, lowering its head as if in agreement. Together, they were stronger. Together, they could control the power of the gate, with the crystal in his hand. Kai placed it in a slot within the pedestal. The moment the crystal touched the stone, the entire ruin erupted in light. The walls cracked open, revealing a vast chamber filled with swirling energy. The Phoenix Gate itself was revealed massive and radiant, its surface shimmering with light and ancient symbols. Kai felt the pull of the gate, the force of its power flooding through him. It was overwhelming, almost too much to bear. The Phoenix Gate was alive, and it was waiting for him to make the choice. The Malkor leader took a step forward, his weapon still raised. But something was different. The energy from the gate was pushing him back, as if the gate itself recognized the danger in his presence. "You can't control it," the Malkor leader shouted, his voice filled with desperation. "You don't understand. You're just a child." Kai's hand tightened around the crystal. "I may be young, but I know what's right," he said. "I won't let you use this for destruction." The Malkor leader's eyes flickered with rage. But he was powerless against the gate's energy. The soldiers, too, were being pushed back. Unable to withstand the sheer force of the Phoenix Gate, the light from the gate grew brighter, filling the entire ruin with blinding energy. Then, without warning, the energy surged outward, wrapping around the Malkor soldiers and pushing them into the walls. The gate's power was not just destructive, it was purifying. The Malkor soldiers were thrown back, knocked unconscious by the intensity of the force. The leader, too, was sent flying, his weapon crashing to the ground beside him. Kai stood firm, his hand still on the crystal. The energy of the gate began to calm, settling into a steady, controlled pulse. It was as if the gate had chosen him not for destruction, but for protection. It recognized him as the one who could restore balance, the one who could use its power wisely. Zyra's wings folded as it stepped forward, its golden eyes watching the scene with quiet understanding. Kai turned to face the dragon. "We did it," he whispered. The dragon nodded again, its large head lowering to Kai's level. There was a deep sense of peace now, a calm that had not been there before. The danger had passed. The Malkor leader lay unconscious, surrounded by his fallen soldiers. Kai looked at them, but there was no fear in his heart. The Malkor had been stopped, not through violence, but through the power of the Phoenix Gate, a power of creation, not destruction. Kai turned back to the gate. The energy was still strong, but now it was under control. The choice had been made. The gate was no longer a weapon of war. It was a tool for rebuilding, for healing the galaxy. And Kai knew that the future had been changed forever. The room was quiet now. The only sound the soft hum of the gate. Zyra stood by his side, its presence a comforting reminder of how far they had come. Kai had been afraid at first, but now he understood. The Phoenix Gate was not just about power, it was about choice. And with the right heart, even the greatest power could be used for good. Kai smiled, feeling a weight lift off his shoulders. The universe was vast, and there was much still to explore. But for now, he was content. The dragon had found its protector, and together, they had stopped the Malkor. They had made a choice for peace. "We'll protect it," Kai said softly, as if speaking to Zyra, but also to the universe itself. Together, the dragon let out a soft, contented growl in response, and the light of the Phoenix Gate seemed to flicker gently, as if in agreement. The adventure wasn't over, but the path ahead was brighter than ever.